North Korea claims what it tested yesterday was a multiple-warhead missile and that it was a success. South Korea's military contradicted such claims, calling the test a complete failure. After a month-long wrangling, rival parties completed forming the 22nd National Assembly, having elected the remaining leadership posts of standing committees. Counting down to the official opening of the Korea Center in New York, traditional Korean music and dance took center stage in the heart of the Big Apple on Wednesday local time. It's June 27, 2024. This is Newscenter. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. North Korea says it successfully tested a new multi-warhead missile on Wednesday, contradicting South Korea's assessment that the launch failed after exploding midair. The South's military reiterated today that the North is trying to cover up its failure. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung begins our coverage.
Earlier on Thursday, North Korea claimed that its missile launch the day before was a successful test launch of a multiple-warhead missile. Its state-run media said Wednesday's test was to secure the capability of firing multiple warheads on a single ballistic missile. According to the regime, the separated warheads were guided correctly to hit 3 coordinated targets. The test was reportedly carried out within a 170 to 200 kilometer radius using the first stage engine of an intermediate-range solid-fuel ballistic missile. Developing multiple warhead missiles has been part of the regime's 5-year development plan since it was unveiled in 2021, but it's the first time North Korea has publicly revealed any such test launch. South Korea's military, however, contradicted the North's claims, saying they are exaggerated and a complete failure.
The missile launched by North Korea yesterday exploded mid-air in the early stage of flight. The North released some other information this morning, which I believe is merely deception and exaggeration.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missile flew abnormally from the beginning and exploded immediately.
The most important thing is, multiple warheads are separated during the descent phase. However, North Korea's missile exploded in the early stages of the flight, so you can see that it's not right at all.
The South's military also questioned the credibility of the missile launch photos released by the North, as they appear to be similar to the Hwasong-17 liquid-fuel intercontinental ballistic missile launched last year. The JCS believes there is a motive to cover up Wednesday's failure, especially following the regime's recent failed attempt at launching a reconnaissance satellite. South Korea's military had already confirmed the failure soon after the launch on Wednesday, saying the missile exploded mid-air after traveling some 250 kilometers. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
South Korea has warned that it'll resume loudspeaker broadcasts directed toward the north if the regime sends more balloons carrying trash. The loudspeaker systems set up near the border are designed to blare music and political messages that can be heard as far as 20 kilometers away, enough to reach many North Korean soldiers and civilians. The warning follows the North launching of more waste-carrying balloons on Wednesday night, the 3rd day in a row. The North floated around 180 balloons and around 70 landed in South Korea's capital area. The country's military advised the public to report any balloons if spotted and refrain from touching them. South Korea, the U.S. and Japan kicked off their first Trilateral Freedom Edge exercise on Thursday in waters south of Jeju Island. The Joint Chiefs of Staff announced that the 3-day multi-domain exercise demonstrates the 3 countries' will to promote interoperability and protect freedom for peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region, including on the Korean Peninsula. The exercise, using multiple ships and aircraft, involves ballistic missile defense, air defense, anti-submarine warfare, maritime interdiction, as well as defense cyber training. The defense chiefs of Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo agreed to launch the drills early this month, in line with the agreement established during their leaders' Camp David summit last year. North Korea has been constantly accused for its violation of human rights. To raise awareness of this, the Ministry of Unification issued a report detailing the execution of a young man for watching movies and listening to songs from South Korea. Our North Korean affairs correspondent Kim Jong-sil reports.
In North Korea, those watching South Korean dramas and movies or listening to songs must do so at the risk of their own lives. For the first time, the Ministry of Unification has made public the record of an execution of a person violating North Korea's law on rejecting reactionary thought and culture. Enacted in late 2020, the law bans North Koreans from watching foreign content that the regime believes potentially poses a threat to it. The ministry released its latest report on the human rights situation in North Korea on Thursday, and it included the case of a 22-year-old male being executed for violating the recent law. A defector who witnessed the execution said the young man was put to death for listening to 70 South Korean songs and watching 3 movies, according to charges read out before the sentence was carried out. He was caught in possession of the South Korean material and was also charged with distributing the content to 7 others. New testimony from 141 North Korean defectors this year, added to that from 508 defectors in 2023, confirms the continuity of North Korea's human rights violations. 2 defectors, a mother and her daughter in her 20s, came to the South late last year and spoke to reporters on the same day the report was released. They said they had to escape the North because they were on the verge of death due to a financial crisis and extreme surveillance and interference by some younger watchdog members of the regime's Workers' Party. Actor Yoo Ji-tae was named an ambassador for promoting North Korean human rights.
About 20 years ago, I was filming a movie based on a North Korean novel, and when I was in Mount Kumgang for shooting, the staff from the South and North were using the same language, but it felt so different that it made me feel sad. I later learned that there are serious issues regarding North Korean human rights. I want to do everything in my power to help.
The ministry plans to promote the report to raise awareness both inside and outside South Korea. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
Starting today, professors of medicine at Severance Hospital, one of the 5 major hospitals in Seoul, went ahead with an indefinite walkout to protest the government's expansion of the medical school quota. They will, however, still cover essential emergency and intensive care areas, but outpatient services will see a major curtailment of appointments. Hospital management say that there has been only an approximate 10% drop in services so far. Meanwhile, professors at Asan Medical Center will join the walkout next Thursday, although professors at the 3 other major hospitals have decided not to participate in the collective action at this time. The government once again called for a dialogue with doctors to address the conflict. Today, the National Assembly held a plenary session to elect the remaining leadership posts of standing committees, finalizing a formation of the 22nd National Assembly after a month-long wrangling. Our political correspondent Shin Ha-young has the details.
After weeks of bipartisan wrangling, the rival parties have finally decided on how to run the 22nd National Assembly for the next 2 years. The Assembly held a plenary session on Thursday to select the 7 remaining Assembly Committee chiefs, as well as a Deputy Speaker from the ruling People Power Party.
The plenary session was called through an agreement between the rival parties. We apologize to the public for the concern caused by the delay in forming the committees.
All 7 committees among 18 are now chaired by the PPP lawmakers, including Kim Seok-ki, who will lead the Foreign Affairs and Unification Committee.
In foreign affairs and security, there's no party divide. As committee chair, I'll address pending issues, focusing on national interests and policies to enhance South Korea's global role.
The PPP on Monday accepted the 7 standing committee chair positions proposed by the main opposition Democratic Party, which holds the majority. It is customary to divide the 18 standing committee chair positions in proportion to the number of seats held by each party, which would make it 11 for the DP and 7 for the PPP. The PPP had been calling for negotiations on which party would chair the Legislation and Judiciary Committee, as it is a key assembly panel with the power to approve bills before they are put to a plenary vote. However, the DP refused and unilaterally voted to take the position 2 weeks ago, along with other 10 parliamentary committee chiefs. During the plenary session on Thursday, lawmakers elected a 6th-term legislator Ju Ho-young as one of the 2 deputy speaker posts set aside for the ruling party. The DP's Lee Ha-kyun took on the position 3 weeks ago amid the PPP's boycott of the vote, which claimed that the session was held without a bipartisan agreement on its agenda. With Thursday's plenary session, the formation of the first half of the 22nd National Assembly concluded 28 days after it commenced its 4-year term. Now that the parliament is ready to return to work at full scale, a 3-day Q&A session on matters of national interest is scheduled to start on Tuesday. 신하영, Arirang News.
Next year's National Research and Development budget has been set at 24.8 trillion Korean won, or around $17.9 billion. This is according to the Ministry of Science and ICT, as the plan was finalized during the Presidential Advisory Council on Science and Technology held on Thursday. Over $2 billion will be allocated to the so-called 3 major game changers, including biotech, with the aim of enhancing global leadership and competitiveness. This reverses the first budget cut in 8 years, which was implemented this year, sparking criticism from the science community. Top trade and commerce officials of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan sat down in Washington for their first trilateral session on economic security. Park Gun-woo covers their discussion.
Industry ministers of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan in their first trilateral meeting have agreed to strengthen their cooperation on supply chains and economic security. The meeting in Washington, D.C. on Wednesday local time was held between South Korea's Minister of Trade, Industry, and Energy, An Deok-kun, and his U.S. and Japanese counterparts, Gina Raimondo and Saito Ken. This was a follow-up meeting after the leaders of the 3 countries decided at Camp David last August to hold these ministerial meetings. In a joint statement on Wednesday, the 3 ministers said their shared intent was to promote the development of critical and emerging technologies and strengthen the security and resiliency of their economies through a trilateral mechanism. Saying their top priority is to strengthen resilience of supply chains in fields such as chips and batteries, they also said they aim to promote principles on resilient and reliable supply chains that contain rules of transparency, diversification, security, and sustainability. The ministers also agreed to improve their cooperation in advanced technologies like AI and core minerals. While some experts point out that the trilateral meeting was held to ask for Korea and Japan to join export control efforts against China, one professor spoke about Korea's stance.
In terms of severity, I think the Korea may have come up with different attitudes against Japan, because even though the Korean companies have taken over major market shares in semiconductors, when it comes to semiconductor producing equipment, Korean companies are taking over very small portions in the global market, less than about 3%.
And as part of the ministerial meeting, the top industry officials agreed to meet annually at the ministerial level, along with regular working level meetings. Park Gun-woo, Arirang News.
Over in Busan, one of the country's biggest mobility shows takes place this week. The gist of this year's show is going green with electric vehicles. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun is standing on site for more of what's featured at this year's show. Hey there, Hae-ryun.
Hello, good evening, Jungmin. I'm currently standing in front of where this year's Busan Mobility Show is taking place, and we've actually just finished up with the press day just prior to the official opening date to the public tomorrow. Now, this is one of the country's biggest mobility shows, and companies from all around the world have gathered to showcase the latest advancements in future mobility under this year's theme of Next Mobility Comes First. It's one of the country's biggest mobility shows, as I mentioned, and the event used to be called the Busan International Motor Show. And this year is the first time that the title has been changed to the Busan International Mobility Show, but cars are still in the spotlight. With electric vehicles becoming more popular and widely used, the new reveals at this year's show were centered around affordable and more easily accessible models. Hyundai Motor showcased its Casper electric model for the first time to meet the demand for low-cost EVs, following its success with the iconic 5 and 6.
The popularization of EVs will only become possible if anyone can enjoy the various experiences that they provide easily and at a reasonable cost. So today we unveil the new standard for the EV era, the Casper Electric.
Another car designed for the everyday driver is the new all-electric Mini Cooper, an electric version of its popular classic Mini Cooper model. Fitted with OLED display screens from Samsung Display, the British automotive brand has put a modern twist on its traditional circular dash that's also paired with voice-activated controls. The Mini Cooper isn't the only car with an upgrade from its predecessor. Luxury vehicle brand Genesis Motor unveiled its newly minted electrified G80, which features several new aspects that elevate the experience for both driver and passenger. A single button enables the driver to open and close the fuel door without needing to get their hands dirty, and the vehicle itself is bigger to give more room in the back.
Due to the new design of the wheel, which made improvements to drag force crucial for EVs, the new electrified G80 can now go around 475 kilometers on one charge, nearly 50 kilometers more than the former model.
Luxury cars were showcased by BMW, the new high-performance M4 model, as well as the all-electric new iX2.
Hye-yeon, you mentioned that the title of the event has been changed to mobility instead of motors. So what other modes of transport are on display?
Right, Changmin, as you mentioned, this year's event has been changed to the Mobility Show, and there are many other modes of transport also on display, such as the urban air mobility vehicles. Hyundai Motor showed a simulation model of its SA2 electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that was also featured at CES earlier this year. It's an all-electric vehicle that can carry up to 4 passengers and a pilot, with 8 tilting rotors enabling takeoff in crowded urban areas. Kia also displayed its vision for future electric delivery and pickup trucks, featuring a high roof so that drivers don't have to bend to unload goods, a cabinet system that is synchronized with the built-in software to keep track of what items are left, and a smaller module that can fit through narrow streets to deliver goods right to your door. Autonomous driving boats were also on display alongside ATVs and speedboats.
And other than the new name, what would you say is different this year compared to mobility shows in the past?
Well, Changmin, while the event is due to open to the public starting tomorrow, it's uncertain how many people will actually be coming to the event because, sadly, the scale of the Busan Mobility Show has been dwindling over the past few years. So back in 2016, there were 25 different brands showcasing 232 cars, but this fell to 6 brands and 57 cars in 2022, which is the last mobility show that took place before this year. The number of visitors has also dropped by around 27% over the last 8 years, and this has also been reflected in the slowdown in the EV industry.
Consumers are now familiar with EVs, so they know what they want to look for in terms of features and price. This means that there's more of a monopoly in the market where popular EVs are doing well and others aren't.
And that's all I have for now. Back to you, Changmin.
All right, that was our Moon Hye-yeon reporting live from Busan. Thank you. On the cultural front, New York City's Times Square is known for its bright lights and bustling crowds, but it experienced something special on Wednesday local time. Traditional Korean music and dance took center stage, capturing the attention of those who were at the iconic landmark. Our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin reports from New York to explain what this is all about.
Surrounded by giant billboards and towering buildings, the distinct sound of traditional Korean instruments being played, the gwangwari and taepyeongso, fill the air. Musicians not only play, but dance to their music. The stage? One of the world's busiest crossroads, Times Square. This is the National Kugak Center's Korean folk music performance, Pangut.
This is my 4th time at Times Square, but it's my first time performing here instead of just sightseeing. It feels really special, and I hope that by performing in front of so many people today, we can help spread Korean culture.
The show is a kickoff event counting down to the official opening of the New York Korea Center. Described by the Culture Ministry as a comprehensive hub of Korean culture, the Korea Center brings together the overseas branches of the Korean Cultural Center, Korea Tourism Organization, Korea Creative Content Agency, and the King Sejong Institute under one roof. Currently, there are 5 branches in Los Angeles, Shanghai, Tokyo, Beijing, and Paris. With just a day until the center's opening, the Culture Ministry partnered with the National Kugak Center for the Pangut performance to raise awareness and boost excitement.
It was actually very cool and very unique. We never seen before, so we're just standing and kind of cool.
It's something different, and people should know about the traditions because a lot of people, they are not familiar with the indigenous traditions, and also introducing something like that, it's really nice.
Yes. So the stage is set and the excitement here is palpable, as you can see. All that's left now is the grand opening of the New York Korea Center this Thursday night here in Manhattan. Song Yujin, Arirang News, New York.
It was sunny in the center parts of the country today, and the summer heat was on the rise. Today's daytime temperature in Seoul was 32 degrees Celsius, which was 4 degrees higher than this time in previous years. On the other hand, the temperature did not rise too much in the southern parts of the country. Up to 150 millimeters of rain is expected to fall on Jeju Island tomorrow, 20 to 60 on the southern coast, and 5 to 20 in Gyeongsangnam-do province. On the weekend, the whole country, including Seoul, will be in the rainy season. Tomorrow, Chuncheon and Daejeon will start off at 19 degrees. Highs will be topping out at 32 in Daejeon and Gwangju, Busan 28 degrees. Strong and heavy rain is expected to continue into next week with the first rainy season of the summer in the center parts of the country. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session is coming up.